economic alliances in case national governments can't. In downtown LA, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
LA Sister Cities program encourages goodwill and collaboration between LA and 25 other international cities. While a hot Hollywood attraction has become a distraction for those living in the area, Rasha Goel has more.
Residents are saying they have had enough. While they don't mind tourists coming to see the famous Hollywood sign, the thousands of visitors coming to their neighborhood has become a nuisance over the years.
I clean up broken glass from beer bottles, from liquor bottles. I have cleaned up soiled baby diapers. Hold your ears, delicate listeners. I have swept away used condoms, and then other more prosaic but nonetheless offensive garbage like fast food wrappers.
Laura says even parking for residents can be a problem.
If you leave your house on Saturday or Sunday to go do errands, you will not have a parking space when you get back. Period.
The city is looking to put up signs here along Beechwood Drive, just south of Ledgewood Drive, and right before the business complex at the end of the street. The signs would not allow visitors to park between the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week.
It's been a long time because it's been a challenge. I still want public access to the park. I still want the trails open, but I want to protect the neighborhood from the overwhelming cars that fly up the street.
While Laura and other residents are supportive of City Council's proposal to expand parking restrictions, businesses in the area say new parking regulations will have a negative impact on their bottom line. Among them is Patricia Carroll of Hollywood Land Realty Company, whose building has been there since 1923. She's also a resident in the area.
It would basically kill our commerce in any way possible. We felt very blindsided in this situation because we weren't even aware of the hearings where we could input information.
She's hoping some type of solution will be reached that can help both the business owners and residents. But for now, this iconic sign is the only one that residents and visitors can both agree on. In Hollywood, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
The city has asked the Department of Transportation to provide recommendations for expanding parking restrictions in residential areas near the Hollywood sign. Any parking changes would require the approval of at least 67% of residents. Well, it's been a month of farewells for council members who are termed out of office, but one going-away party had a bit of an artistic flair. Anna Marcos has more.
He's been fondly known as Mr. L.A. Outgoing District 4 council member Tom LaBonge has made his mark as a photographer, artist, city historian, nature lover, city leader, and guardian of all things L.A.
I thank all those who I've served under, whether it's Mayor Bradley or Mayor Reardon or when I was there, and then as elected with my colleagues on the city council, especially Janice Hahn, who's my best friend. And I'm proud of Eric Garcetti, now our mayor, what he's done, and Herb Weston, I've known the longest, I believe. So it's been very special.
Even his farewell to the city wasn't just a civic affair, but an artist reception featuring LaBonge's own photography of the City of Angels.
What do you think he should do next?
Be a cameraman. He takes a lot of good pictures. You see all these pictures are on the wall.
LaBonge has served the city of L.A. since 1976, working as city council staff, then at DWP, before he was elected as council member of the 4th District in 2001. Over the years, he's changed a bit, though his love for Mickey Mouse hasn't. And no LaBonge retrospective would be complete without his favorite gift, pumpkin bread, showing up in the picture. Even the president got a homegrown loaf at one point.
He is such a man of the people. He is so evocative of what Los Angeles really is.
He's very committed, and he's very much cares, and he's easily one of the biggest fans of Los Angeles.
LaBonge, it seems, leaves plenty of fans behind.
He said that he might think about teaching, but I hope he runs for mayor when Garcetti's term is finished, because we really all love him so much.
Mayor, teacher, Griffith Park patron saint, and hiker, who knows? But we think in some way we'll be seeing him around. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
LaBonge's last day in office is June 30th. And as he counts down to his last days in office, Councilman LaBonge took the opportunity to reflect on 4 decades of public service. Gil Reyes has more.
So here we are, 3, 2, 1. You hear me okay? Hey, here comes Vadim. Get out of here, Vadim. Vadim's the youth. He goes on, but I'm out.
He'll be out all right. L.A. City Councilman Tom LaBonge, the most boisterous of L.A.'s elected leaders, termed out of his job in July.
Closing on 14 years, almost 14 years as a council member. So over the course of time, I've collected a lot of things. Come on in.
LaBonge, who represents parts of Hollywood, the Miracle Mile, and Sherman Oaks, shows us. His soon-to-be vacated City Hall office is packed with mementos from his district, art from constituents, relics like this piece of curb from the former home of Walt Disney. There are maps, plaques, and proclamations dedicated to the folksy, football-loving former jock from Marshall High School.
Lisa, how's that report, dude? You gonna have it done today?
Oh, yes, I am.
All right, now take a minute. Don't always be a busy bee. Wave to the camera. Okay. Good. Here's a picture of me right here. That's Pat O'Brien. That is Lou Holtz.
He also shows us photographs. LaBonge, an amateur photographer, worked for NFL Films before politics. Prior to becoming councilman, he also spent 26 years working for the city in various roles, mostly as chief deputy to former council president John Ferraro. Altogether, that's 40 years in public service.
When you're from Los Angeles and you're able to contribute in a way like I have, it's a very good feeling to know that, you know. I haven't made everybody happy, haven't solved every problem.
As councilman, LaBonge clashed with activists over the LA Zoo's elephant exhibit. They called it inhumane and sued to close it. They lost. People have also criticized increased development and McMansionization in his district, but he's fought to preserve open space.
Well, I think the proudest moment as a representative is to be able to buy the land in Cahuenga Peak, the open space near the Hollywood sign. If you look over here at this picture here, everything here was private land. They could have built on it. Now it's parkland.
This added over 100 acres to his beloved Griffith Park. LaBonge hikes there almost daily. His knowledge of the city has earned him the nickname Mr. Los Angeles, and he plays it up for the cameras.
I can't help falling in love.
As LA's booming goodwill ambassador and chair of LA's Sister Cities program, LaBonge almost always puts on a good show, leaving crowds smiling or bewildered, oftentimes both. So what's next for the man famous for handing out pumpkin bread made by Dominican nuns to people he meets? Will he ride off into the sunset of Griffith Park?
Sometime in the future, I got to get a job because my children will still be in college, and my wife doesn't want to run the house all day long.
Are you ruling out politics?
Not ruling it out, but I'm not going to Sacramento. People have asked me to be a United States Senator, and I laugh. I'll tell you this, there is nothing like having this job to help people and to work with people who are into helping people. This is Tom LaBonge from Council District 4 signing off to Channel 35, but I hope to come back on a rerun.
Best wishes to Mr. Los Angeles. Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Councilman LaBonge plans to donate a lot of the memorabilia in his office to the LA City Library and local universities. He also hasn't ruled out teaching or a job in the tourism industry. While the plan to improve the travel experience for passengers at the Los Angeles International Airport continues with rapid renovations, Raja Goel has more on the latest upgrades at the Delta Terminal. Raja.
Yana, I'm here at LAX at the Delta Airlines terminal, and right behind me you can see the new expanded ticket lobby. Now, this is just one of the many changes that has happened in this terminal. And of course, all of this is part of the bigger picture of the LAX $8.5 billion modernization plan. The $229 million project for Delta Airlines also includes...
Over the past 3 years, Delta has doubled the size of the ticketing lobby, renovated their baggage claim, and then built the beautiful Delta Sky Club, where they'll open their first ever exclusive check-in area that we've been talking about, complete with renovated bathrooms and, get this, new shower suites.
It is the first time Delta anywhere in our system has built a dedicated premium first-class check-in facility.
The goal is to overall improve customer experience at the second busiest airport.
In April, we opened a $438 million central utility plant, a major infrastructure investment that's 25% more efficient than before. In January, we opened 4 new gates at Tom Bradley Terminal, one of the finest terminals now in North America.
Collectively, On capital improvement at LAX, we are spending an average of $4.5 million per day.
Officials say Delta has been the fastest growing carrier since 2009.
And the work done on this terminal alone helped us to have 1,000 additional jobs, good-paying construction jobs, in addition to the 2,800 jobs that Delta already has here.
Delta Airlines is also looking to expand the number of locations they fly to. They currently serve 53 destinations and already have plans to add more destinations to the list this summer. Yana?
Rasha, thanks. According to airport officials, in the first quarter of this year, LAX accommodated 1.5 million more passengers when compared to previous years. And while LAX is seeing a boost in passengers, Los Angeles fire stations are experiencing a boost of their own as critical services are restored at one firehouse in Los Feliz. Los Angeles Fire Station 35 is back to doing what it does best, serving the community and saving lives. That's because the station is now back to operating with full capacity.
Well, now we have a fully staffed engine company with 4 people, and then we have a fully staffed truck company, and then 2 fully staffed rescues, 1 paramedic rescue and 1 BLS rescue, which allows us to be fully staffed in the Los Feliz district.
LAFD and city officials came out recently to rededicate the station as a full-service task force.
I just think it's really important that we have good support from the fire department, and they do a wonderful job.
In 2011, during the height of the recession, the station had to cut 1 fire engine and 4 firefighters from service. But now that services have been restored, officials say firefighters can get back to doing their jobs.
In every neighborhood they are, and they are extremely efficient, but they need support because not just the regular day-to-day activities. We all know what Dr. Lucy Jones says, the big one will come, and these are our absolute first responders.
LAFD officials said Fire Station 35 was the first to get its resources returned because it's close to popular destinations such as Griffith Park, nightclubs, and several major hospitals. LAFD Chief Ralph Terrazas said even more support is on its way in the form of a nurse practitioner unit to help respond to 911 calls.
This new unit will go out there and address the needs of that patient. It's just below a doctor level. They can do stitches, they can write prescriptions, they can take them to a substance abuse center, they can take them to a mental health clinic, all the things that we can't do right now.
Terrazas, who became chief of the department last year, said 54 new firefighters were also recently hired, and he said he will be requesting 5 new classes for the next fiscal year. With Fire Station 35 fully restored, LAFD now has 31 complete task forces. While some of the finest high school filmmakers in the county compete for exposure on the big screen, Gil Reyes reports from the Los Angeles Student Film Festival, a festival created by City Councilman Paul Krikorian.
Many of these filmmakers exhibit depth and creativity well beyond their high school years. Senior Riley Barris directed not your typical documentary, but a sockumentary to help the homeless.
We collect socks, undergarments, and hygiene products for the homeless, and we distribute them back to the homeless population in the streets. So it's about raising awareness and promoting donations for the homeless.
Her film, one of 37, selected to screen at the Los Angeles Student Film Festival at El Portal Theater in North Hollywood. LA City Councilman Paul Krikorian created the program.
An opportunity to explore a different side of themselves that maybe they didn't even know was there. Some of these kids have never picked up a camera before they entered this festival. But at the same time, there are also some very serious filmmakers who are no doubt going to go on to a career in this industry, so we're helping to develop the next generation of filmmakers.
Animators, too. Students spent months painstakingly crafting their animated films using Adobe Photoshop and iMovie.
It was all hand-drawn, so it was just like picking pictures and putting it all together into one single stop motion.
It was so much work, but once seeing it like finished and crisp and clear and beautiful, I'm like, yes, this is our baby. And I'm super excited to be able to present it here.
Students also got to wear many different hats, juggling duties as actors, directors, and producers.
We all helped produce it, we all helped edit it. And it was like one of the first things we ever created together and one of my first collaborations.
And hopefully not the last for these talented young filmmakers. In North Hollywood, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Only 37 student films were selected out of some 200 submissions throughout LA County. Well, it's one of the most critically acclaimed shows on television, and most of it was shot right here in L.A. For all of its contributions to the city, City Council recognized the crew and creator of Mad Men. That's the focus of This Week in Tweets. The AMC hit Mad Men was honored by Councilmember Paul Krikorian at City Hall, declaring June 17th Mad Men Day in Los Angeles. On hand for the honor were show creator Matthew Weiner and other cast and crew members.
Nostalgia. It's delicate, but potent. It's a twinge.
Krikorian, who is also chair of the city's Film and TV Production Jobs Committee, tweeted, Wednesday, June 17th is Mad Men Day in Los Angeles. This historic show created hundreds of TV jobs over the last 8 years. Jejune Wilson at Pinky Avalon tweeted, congrats to Mad Men team being honored by LA City Council, declaring June 17th officially Mad Men AMC Day in LA. Our own Rasha Goel, who was at City Hall, tweeted a pic of Krikorian speaking at the podium of council chambers. She tweeted, Mad Men creator, cast, crew recognized at LA City Council for keeping production in LA. Shot almost entirely in Los Angeles, Mad Men generated about $200 million to LA's economy during its 7-year run on AMC. Krikorian said the production created hundreds of steady jobs for actors, writers, and below-the-line production workers. Mad Men wrapped its 7th and final season this spring. And that's a look at This Week in Tweets. While U.S. veterans are recognized, a historic community in Elysian Park gets its name carved in stone, and the bidding begins as city leaders ask internet companies to take part in their CityLink LA initiative. All these stories and more in City Beat. More than 200 veterans and guests recently came out for the 3rd annual Council District 12 Interfaith Breakfast at New Horizons in North Hills. This biannual event, entitled A Time for Gratitude, focused on celebrating the selfless service and sacrifice of all veterans, while at the same time exploring issues such as employment, housing, benefits, and mental health. A panel of federal, state, and local experts shared their knowledge and expertise with those in attendance. Councilmember Gil Cedillo and the Department of Recreation and Parks unveiled a monument to recognize the historic Solano community within Elysian Park. The Solano community is the last remaining residential community within Elysian Park after several other neighborhoods were removed in the mid-1950s to make room for Dodger Stadium. The location of the monument is on a 0.10-acre portion of Elysian Park, which was donated to the City of Los Angeles in 2008. The City Council is now accepting bids from companies interested in offering free or low-cost internet access across the city. As part of the CityLink LA program, the city is looking for internet providers that can offer reduced rate and free wireless internet service for low-income communities. The providers would also set up a network with 1 gigabyte or higher speeds for homes and businesses. In return, the internet providers would get access to city-owned assets and get other incentives, such as bulk lease rates on the city's fiber networks, as well as a streamlined permitting process. City officials said the goal is to offer internet access to everyone in the city, including those who cannot currently afford to get online.
The City of Los Angeles has made a serious commitment to this initiative and is deeply invested in making wide broadband access a reality.
Councilman Bob Blumenfield, who is spearheading the citywide internet effort, said the program would boost the local economy as well as close the digital divide, a phrase that refers to a gap between those who can afford internet and those who cannot. Companies have until November 12th to submit their proposals. The city's Department of Recreation and Parks, Council Districts 1 and 14 recently hosted a luncheon and preview of the upcoming Lotus Festival taking place in July.
There will be lots of live performances as well, really great dances and singing, and it'll be a great cultural experience for everyone.
The Lotus Festival is held in July to coincide with the blooming of the flowers that are cultivated on the lake beds by City Park crews. LA's first responders compete on the court to encourage summer safety. Gil Reyes has more from USC.
It's Chief versus Chief. Sporting different types of uniforms, the LA City Fire Department and the LA Police Department go head-to-head in a game of hoops.
To bring the community out and have a good time.
Fans packed USC's Galen Center for the 6th annual Safe Summer Tip-Off basketball game.
The main point is to tell the kids to have a safe summer, stay out of trouble, take up sports, and look to your police and fire departments if you ever need help for anything.
They'll be around when over 30 parks and rec centers stay open after hours for summer night lights. The program keeps kids off the streets and out of trouble with supervised activities like sports.
We see a spike in violent crime during the summer. The fire department sees a spike in medical calls. So we got to emphasize, have a great summer, but have a safe summer.
The LAFD on fire early, but the LAPD shoots and scores to take the lead. Final score 53-77. LAPD wins.
The police department always wins.
You'll win too if you play it safe. At USC's Galen Center, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Though LAFD appeared to be the crowd favorite at times, LAPD has won the annual game 6 years in a row. A mariachi music festival celebrates Latin music, a Peruvian guitarist soothes the soul, and what does Beethoven and the Beatles have in common? Find out in this week's Things to Do. Proudly reaching an important milestone, Mariachi USA celebrates its 26 years on Saturday, June 27th. It's the premier mariachi music festival and the only annual Latino-themed event at the Hollywood Bowl for 26 consecutive years. The festival will showcase top mariachi bands from the U.S. and Mexico. The event features traditional folkloric dances and the legendary fireworks display that together have made the event a cultural icon in L.A. The festival was created to give mariachi music a forum for artistic expression and a way to celebrate the rich musical traditions that so many have come to enjoy. Held at the Hollywood Bowl since its inception, the festival continues thrilling audiences of all generations. Rich musical traditions come to life at the Hollywood Bowl, located at 2301 Highland Avenue. For more details, visit mariachiusa.com. If you prefer the cool sounds of an acoustic guitar, check out the Latin music of the Ciro Hurtado Band, performing at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art on June 27th. Peruvian guitarist and composer Ciro Hurtado has been actively performing since the early 70s. He is a musical director and a solo artist who has produced and recorded 7 albums, including In My Mind and Tales from Home. Each of his compositions is paired with a story to illustrate the cultural and social context which brings his music to life. He was awarded the prestigious Durfee Master Musician Fellowship in 2001 and 2004. LACMA is located at 5905 Wilshire Boulevard. More details can be found at lacma.org. The joyous sounds of Beethoven's 7th Symphony perfectly pairs with Beatles hits like Penny Lane, Sgt. Pepper, Hey Jude, and more. The great music comes alive on Sunday, June 28th at the Walt Disney Concert Hall with Maestro Veneer and the California Philharmonic. Your spirits will swoop, soar, and sparkle as the music fills the air. Don't miss this fabulous opportunity to make your musical experience even more fulfilling. The Walt Disney Concert Hall is located at 111 South Grand Avenue. For more, go to calphil.com. And that's a look at some things to do. And that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay, and from all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Bulky item pickup? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
They will have to take two, 'cause I've got trouble, holding this man of mine. It seems there's always...
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm an Iyengar yoga teacher here in Los Angeles, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35, Our City, Our Channel. Namaste.
Good morning. Good morning. Shh. Today is Wednesday, June 24th. I want to welcome each and every one of you to your Los Angeles City Council meeting. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and the public is welcome. Mr. Clerk, we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonabusca, Enos, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Uzar, Carrasco, Corin, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson, 10 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Labange moves, and Mr. O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Labange moves, and Mr. Cedillo seconds.
Mr. President, items 1 through 8 are items noticed for public hearing.
Do we have cards?
Yes, sir. Cards on item 1.
Okay, let's hold item 1. And members prepare to vote on the remaining items. Mr. Parks?
Item 8 is a required hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There are no cards on
No
it.
cards?
Okay, let's prepare to vote. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Yes, Mr. Parks.
Mr. Wesson, could we have that forthwith? And secondly,
Forthwith.
Pardon?
I said forthwith.
Forthwith. And item 58, yes, item 58 is the companion ordinance. If we can go as quickly as we can to the special meeting, it's the only item on that agenda. So we
Okay,
can do
so within a minute or two,
Okay.
I'll be able to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, please don't let me forget that.
Very good, sir. And, Mr. President, the ordinances for items 2, 3, and 4 will go over for a second read unless reconsidered later today with
Well,
12.
as soon as we get 12 members, I will task you with reminding me to do that as well.
Very good, sir.
Let's continue.
Items 9 through 36 are items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports for items 29, 30, 31, and 32 have been submitted, and communications from the Planning and Land Use Management Committee have been submitted for items 11 and 32, and the Innovation, Technology, and General Services Committee for item 13.
Okay, do we have cards?
Mr. President, for items, for those items that are communications, 11, 13, and 32, we only have cards on item 11.
Okay, let's hold 11. Mr. Fuentes. 16.
1-6.
We'll hold that for Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Christine.
Any other members? Let us prepare to vote on these remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Let's move forward. Mr. Which one of you were first? Why don't you arm wrestle, and whoever wins? No, Mr. Bonner.
You can go first.
Mr. Bonner.
Item 33, urgent forthwith.
Okay, we have to vote on that. So we're going to do 33, urgent forthwith. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that's done. Mr. Fuentes.
26 and 27 forthwith, please.
26 and 27, forthwith. Mr. Labange.
And 30, which we did vote on, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you could send that forthwith.
Forthwith.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's continue.
Very good, sir. Items 37 through 57 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Do we have cards, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir. Cards on items 37, 45, 46, 47, 50, 51, 52, 54, and 55.
Okay, let's hold those items and we'll vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That brings us where?
Mr. President, that takes council to the special agenda or items called special or presentation, sir.
Okay, I want to, before we get to that, Mr. Parks, we have Mr. Labange for a presentation. So the floor is yours, Mr. Labange.
Good morning, Mr. President, and thank all of you for the wonderful day yesterday. Every day is a blessing. And in our city of Los Angeles, one of the greatest blessings is Trax Restaurant at Union Station. In 1939, when Union Station was built, it was said to be the greatest and last of the great train stations of the United States. Union Station stands for the Santa Fe, Union Pacific, and Southern Pacific. But with that great history over 75 years of that great train station, when it did not have the energy that it needed to have, all of a sudden, Tara Thomas came forth and brought about Trax Restaurant. And I don't think there's a member here in the House that hasn't been to Trax Restaurant to enjoy a meal or an evening of entertainment in the Grand Union Station of Los Angeles. And what I love to do is honor people who really make a difference in Los Angeles. And Tara Thomas has made a difference in Los Angeles. For not you and Trax Restaurant, it wouldn't be a magnet for a crossroads of not only just the travelers, but many of the people, whether they're with the MTA, other government entities, MWD, water's so important there, all the others who come through and call Tara Thomas Trax their favorite restaurant. So on behalf of the City Council, I want to salute you for your 18th year as being one of the internationally owned renowned Trax restaurant at historic Union Station. And you consider that all the work that you've done and graduated for the California Culinary Academy and all the apprenticeships that you had through your time to come up and step up to the plate in 1997 and open Trax, which was the first great restaurant in Union Station since the Harvey House left. And the Harvey House left a long time ago. Your accomplishments underscore a vital rebirth of downtown institution, as well as new and old, the influx of newcomers via the continued expansion of public transport into Union Station, as well as downtown's countless attractions have made Trax so special. You're a fifth-generation Angelino, and it's so special to recognize you as one of the best caterers, best restaurants by the Downtown News. I want to just take time and say how special it is that our President of the United States, Mr. Obama, has eaten there, as well as Mr. Clinton has eaten there, which is so special to have that. Vice President Gore, and Senator Barbara Boxer, just a few to mention. Those people have trusted your restaurant and the great staff that you have there that do such a wonderful job, which is so special. So on behalf of Mayor Eric Garcetti and all the City Council, I want to salute you, Tara Thomas, for these great years of service, and keep going strong, baby.
All right. Mr. Labange, I'd like to call on Mr. Cedillo? Are you Mr. Cedillo?
Tara, thank you. As you recall, I had just been elected to political office, my first seat in the Assembly, and Thursday nights was the night we would return from Sacramento and we'd head straight to Trax. It was an oasis at the beginning of the revitalization of downtown. We had our first Christmas party there with Senator Tom Hayden, and we've had numerous events there, and you've just been a great host and a great ambassador for the city. It's such an important place because so many thousands of people come in and out of the city, and Trax sits there as an oasis for them, for respite, for great food, but most of all for great service, and that all falls from your leadership. So thank you so much, and God bless you, and continue to be there as our beacon. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you. And also, I want to thank Mr. Weezar for the great job you're doing in revitalizing El Pueblo and Union Station. And that's where our crossroads are, where the guy from Salesian High meets the guy from Marshall High at Trax Restaurant. Say a few words, Tara.
Thank you, Tom, and members of the council. I'm not as good at public speaking as the rest of you, but I wanted to read the Merriam-Webster Dictionary of Hospitality definition. It says, the friendly and generous reception and entertainment of guests, visitors, or strangers. And that's what I hope to embody in Tracks. And that is how downtown and the city of Los Angeles have always welcomed me. So thank you very much for all your support and making Tracks and my commitment to Los Angeles a great success. Thank you very much for this honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I appreciate it, members. Terry, you're going to sit right there just for a moment there. We also have another iconic building, which is up at Barnsdall. I know Mr. O'Farrell has been a champion for revitalization of Barnsdall Art Park, but the Lear family is part of my heritage right here, and I want to ask Sheila Lear to come up here right now to get a special commendation. Give Sheila a big hand, please. And her brother David's here. I want him to come up. He was a great library commissioner. And David, I was at the library the other day. You still have an overdue book I got to get handled for you. And his brother Michael Lear is a great architect, and he was the student body president of John Marshall High when I was the captain of the football team. So special is the Lear family. But Sheila, you wanted to be recognized because of all your special work that you've done. Thank you, David. And it's so special I get a chance to recognize you as you're born right there in the neighborhood when the old Cedars was on Fountain Avenue. Grew up. Her mother immigrated from Austria and her father immigrated from the Ukraine. The Lear family had a passion for excellence and commitment. And I could just tell that that's all around your family, having grown up in the neighborhood. Went to Franklin Avenue Elementary, Thomas Starr King Junior High, what they called then, and the great John Marshall High School. Sheila's mother lives in the same home in Los Feliz, an extended family to this day. And it's so special that we're all together to salute your family because you've been so special to all of us with your work at Barnsdall Art in the community. All this is so inspiring. You joined the Friends of the Junior Arts Center in 1992, and thereafter in 2004 became the chairman of the board and the executive director pro bono for all those periods.
For 10 years.
For 10 years. Thank you so much, Sheila. Your commitment to Barnsdall is so key because Barnsdall is our beacon as an art center and only being enhanced by Mr. O'Farrell and all the members of the council and the commitment. And I'm just proud to salute you for the art education because the art education is another avenue for people to be successful. It's not always on the football field or in the debate with Mr. Hanks at the speech class. All that in there. It's in the art field, which is so important. You're celebrating your 10th anniversary as a community volunteer, and I want to salute you for all this work that you have done, and thank you so much, Sheila, for all the work. Sheila Lear, congratulations to you on behalf of the City Council. I know Mitch O'Farrell wants to say something real quick.
Mr. Labange, Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Tom, for bringing Sheila in. I just want to thank you for all your work at Barnsdall. You've really set the stage for all the improvements that are happening there now, and we are setting up mechanisms so that revenue that's generated there can be directly reinvested in a greater dollar amount than ever before. And we have our sights set on Residence A and Schindler's View for future improvements and not so distant future improvements because Barnsdall Art Park is one of the jewels of all of Los Angeles, and it is nominated for a World Heritage Site. So thanks for all the work that you do and others who care so deeply about this incredible, iconic location in Los Angeles and in the 13th District. And thank you, Tom, for all your work over the years as well. Thanks for your work on Barnsdall, and I encourage everyone to visit it. It's a magical place. Thank you.
May I ask Sheila to speak a few words? Thank you.
Hi, I want to thank you all for recognizing Barnsdall Arts. We are located at Barnsdall Art Park, but we are also have programs throughout Los Angeles in virtually every one of your council districts. We serve 165,000 people a year with over 2,400 classes in the community. And I hope that the council remembers that art education is something that really needs support. It drives the engine of our economy in Los Angeles. And if we expect to have a generation that can work in that economy and create art that is in the vanguard of the entire world, we need to support it and to raise the next generation. Our organization actually works with children from pre-kindergarten all the way to seniors. We have partners throughout the community, and from the Natural History Museum to schools, libraries, social service agencies. So thank you very much for recognizing this work. I signed up for 6 months 10 years ago in a time of crisis, and in the 10 years that I've been working now pro bono as executive director, we've quintupled the work that we do.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And the youth they serve.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Barnsdall is surrounded by some really poor neighborhoods to the south. I mean, some of the poorest in the city. To the north, not so much, but to the south. And those are the youth that she serves, that they serve. It's like Hollywood East.
Okay, before I call on Mr. Buscaino, just a couple of quick things, Mr. Buscaino. Let's vote to reconsider item 17. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
Ayes.
Thank you. Mr. Cedillo, 17.
Mr. President, the CAO report and its recommendations that have been circulated should be moved for item number 17.
Okay, now let's move forward. Let's vote on this item. Mr. Clerk, you needed to make a...
Pardon me, sir. Yes. Would that be to amend the report, the committee report, to add those recommendations, or would that be to substitute those recommendations for those of the committee report?
So,
It's to add and move the recommendations.
To add and move them. So we'll adopt the committee report as amended to also adopt the recommendations of the CAO. Very good, sir.
Okay, so let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, I'd like to turn things over to Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Initially, we have planned to just make an introduction of the incredible work that our Human Relations Commission is doing in preparing our youth for their future here in the city of Los Angeles through their Youth Ambassador Program. So thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me a few minutes of our time here to recognize the city's Youth Ambassador founder, Sheldon Cruz, here. And we're also joined by Commissioner Irma Bernard from the Commission on the Status of Women, and of course our youth delegates. Let's give them a warm welcome here at City Council chambers. Thank you so much for joining us. We heard yesterday from the amazing career of Tom LaBonge, where he started at Mayor Tom Bradley's Youth Council, and how the city's elevated its commitment to our youth even today, where Mayor Garcetti has embraced a youth council as well. And what you see before me is potentially the next mayor, the next council member, the next state senator. We are committed to ensuring that that you are successful in the city of Los Angeles and whatever you plan on doing. And my commitment to teens started as a police officer, where we started the first teen CPAB, using teenagers to problem solve. And I've often said, when teenagers speak, people listen. A few of our youth that are here today were able to experience Washington, D.C. for the first time this past spring, back in March. Idris and Sarah, who are here, I want to recognize you and thank you for committing yourselves to be a part of the problem-solving process, whether it's policy, events, giving a youth a voice in the city of Los Angeles. And lastly, if I may call up Commissioner Bernard to give a few fun facts of the developments and also the success of our Youth Ambassador Program. Commissioner Bernard.
Good morning, Councilman.
Welcome, Commissioner.
And I'm so happy to be here, and especially representing the youth of Los Angeles. I've had the privilege of working with these young people for the last 2 years, and I couldn't have been prouder if they were my own kids. And you know how proud I am of my children. So I want to give you a few facts. The youth ambassadors, 100% of our youth ambassadors are accepted into a college, a four-year college. A total of 61 youth representing all 15 council districts have been admitted, admitted into college. We have a 100% retention rate. Once we get them, we don't let them go. 90% of our youth are in public service. 80% of our youth, this is what I love, but we're going to do better next year, gentlemen. 80% of our youth are young ladies. 100% of our youth complete 100 hours of community service, volunteer hours by the time they graduate from high school. And 100% of our youth who have left us have come back to participate and be mentors to the youth ambassadors that we have now. And here's some of the universities that the youth have been accepted into: Georgetown, Stanford. Tabitha Heard is going to. She's here. She's going to Georgetown. Lisa Sabanyan, she's going to Stanford. Ashley Lee, Harvard. Ashley Lee has also, and Lisa has been accepted into Dartmouth. Ashley Lee and Mitchell Flagg has been accepted into Yale. We have Ren, and Tabitha also has been accepted into Loyola. We have Cal State Northridge, Long Beach, University of Southern California, University of Hawaii, Mount St. Mary, Dillard University, University of Pennsylvania. These are some of the universities that our youth ambassadors have been accepted into, have attended, or are planning to go. So I just want you to know that with the councilman's support, we hope to keep this program going. And it's just wonderful to know that we back up with what we say about having the best interest for our youth. And I want to thank the council member and President Herb Wesson for giving me this opportunity to introduce you to them. Thank you.
Now, thank you. That's great stuff.
Great work, Commissioner. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Just last week, we celebrated the work that's being done with our youth in Watts, the Operation Progress, a great partnership with the LAPD and Mr. Caruso. And just for the record, a number of our colleagues here in this Horseshoes continue to support this Youth Ambassador Program by sending our youth to Washington, D.C. to experience our nation's capital for the first time. And lastly, if I may bring up Tabitha, just found out she's heading off to Georgetown. I want her to give us a minute of her time to share her experiences with the program and also her experiences in Washington, D.C. Help me welcome Tabitha.
Hello, my name is Tabitha Thayard. I am from District 8, where Bernard C. Parks is my council member representative. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Youth Ambassador Cohort for 2014-2015 year, and I would like to first thank you all for supporting us this year. We had a great time doing workshops at various places like LMU, USC. We got the privilege of meeting a lot of people we didn't think we'd meet before, and some of us met our youth for the first time. And the experience was really great, and overall, it really helped us learn not only about ourselves, but about our part in the community and local government, which I think as youth is so vital to our development as citizens of the United States. Yes. And because of this program, a lot of us were able to go to Washington, D.C. for the first time, where we got to see memorials up in person that we only saw in pictures, where we got to tour the White House for the first time and be in a place where no one usually goes to, and we got to meet with some of Obama's administrative staff and voice our concerns about immigration, healthcare, women's role in STEM. And overall, this program has taught us that our voice matters, and that most importantly, that we are allowed to share this voice with the world. And I thank you for your time, for all your support. I thank Joe Busciano for his been there from the beginning, and we hope to continue our involvement with the City of Los Angeles.
All right, Tabitha. Tabitha is going off to great places. We love you, and your colleagues here. So thank you so much, Mr. President, for giving us a few minutes to highlight the great work the Youth Ambassador Program is doing here in the City of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, Mr. Clerk, before we roll into item 58, why don't we address the ordinances at this point? Because we do have a full complement.
Very good, sir. Those would be items 2, 3, 4, 10, 12, 13, 14, 31, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, and 43.
Okay, so let's vote on, Mr. Clerk, we're going to vote on reconsideration of those items?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, now, wait, we're being disrupted. We're being disrupted. Is that Mr.? No, there's a disruption. So, sir, please don't disrupt this meeting again.
Mr. President, those items are now before you.
Okay, now let's prepare to vote on these items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
All right, let's move item 58.
Very good, sir. Would you like to recess the regular and go into the special meeting?
Yes, let's please do that.
Very good. Blumenfield, Bonner, Buscaino, Cedillo, Ingler, Fuentes, Wizar, Carrasco, Correa, LaBonge, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson, 15 members present. Item 58 is an item noticed for public hearing, sir.
Okay, Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. We just ask that this accompanying ordinance that is attached to number 8 be moved forthwith. It's a conclusion of a project that started in 1988 when the Broadway Hospital was closed and then demolished. And we've gone through several variations of this project, and now we're in the process of just the other day having a ribbon cutting for the 3rd housing project on this land, and now a grocery store in the middle of a food desert. So we ask for an aye vote.
Okay, I have a couple of cards on that item, Mr. Parks. I'd like to start out by welcoming our colleague-to-be, Marquise Harris Dawson. Welcome. Okay, and we're going to grade you on this one.
This is a practice run. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm here today speaking to you, my future colleagues, to thank and compliment Councilman Parks for his strong leadership position that he's played in our district over the past dozen years to bring food to underserved communities and food deserts, and to stop the proliferation of fast food on every corner in our community, and also his aggressive stance on using public property to help deal with some of the needs of our community, including housing that people can afford, open space for young people to play, as well as improving our transportation situation. It was Councilman Parks' leadership that led to the development of a Kaiser Permanente facility in the 8th District right on Manchester and Dinker, right near my house. My wife actually goes there, Councilman, so we're very, very grateful. But no project, I think, exemplifies his leadership more than a new grocery store on the corner of 94th and Broadway in a community where there has not been a new grocery store constructed in almost 20 years. So we're here to thank him. We're here to give him a compliment and to make the pledge that when we're here starting next week, we're going to see it through until Councilman Parks can come back and buy lunch at the grocery store on 94th and Broadway. So thank you all.
Thank you. And you were great, by the way. Mr. Eric Previn.
Thank you. It is Eric Previn, a resident from CD2, and I would like to thank Mr. Parks for his tireless efforts in this council over the years, and to draw attention to this item, which is a supermarket. And it caught my attention a couple weeks ago, and it looked like a great deal to be giving away some city-owned property for a particularly good, I think a reasonable, fair market value is sort of what was quoted, or fair reuse value may be one of the terms. Believe me, it is a little bit confusing. So I sort of looked into it a little bit because there are examples. I've been very focused on city surplus property being provided to various developers. And I was wondering if we could identify at least who the developers are, 94th and Broadway LLC, because it's one thing we've been working at the county too is we must identify who is behind these LLCs. Because if you want to do business with the public stuff, with the city government, with the county government, even the state government, I certainly think it would be great to come out behind the veil and just explain who you are. Because, and you know, we could even get an ordinance going, sir, with your great leadership to identify who the various members are of all these LLCs, because it's a great way to sort of hide. But anyway, on item 58 today, doesn't say LLC, it says limited liability company. It's the same group, I think. But really the question becomes, is it $1 that this property will be transferred for? Because that's different than fair reuse value. That may be in the public benefit or the public interest. It is a little bit confusing. These items come faster. I know you've satisfied various public comments here and there and continued it, but if you could just have somebody from the department explain that this is in fact not $1. I don't think it's $1. I think I misread that, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parks, you want to close or?
Ask for an aye vote and a super forthwith.
Okay, well, let's do one at a time. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, now on our super forthwith, let's vote on that as well. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, that is
very good, sir.
and
We'll send that matter urgent forthwith. And would council like to adjourn the special and return to the regular at this point in time?
Yes.
Very good, sir.
So now that we're back in the regular, item 37, John Walsh, item 37. Mr. Walsh?
HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is number 37. This is Michael F. Fleming to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. That's where Tom LaBonge is going to be going after he leaves here, unless he takes the
Stay
double
on the
pension.
subject. Stay on the subject.
Subject is DWP and Michael Fleming. He resides in Council District 14. DWP is a disgrace. Millions of dollars. One guy stole $4 million from you, and fortunately our treasurer found out. I just want him to realize that when he becomes a member, Mr. Fleming, and incidentally, we checked the background. Unlike somebody you appointed here about 2 years ago, he has no kiddie porn, and he's not been arrested for kiddie porn, as one of your commissioners has. If I'm wrong, correct me about your kiddie porn commissioners. Michael Fleming, we're 100% in favor of his becoming a board, DWP, and he will be a proud, very proud pimple on the ass of Mayor Garcetti and Herb Whitey Wesson. Thank you.
Mr. Barajas? Brian Barajas.
I think the issue here would be the role of this person in the Board of Water and Power. I think the issue here wouldn't be anything that John Walsh brought up. What the issue here would be, what is his role in actually clarifying to the American people of the issue of water and power? Obviously, we're going to be dealing with a lot of issues on that, losing water and losing energy. So my role here is to clarify for the American people. It's very simple. We have to get these individuals on this board to think on a level that even Tom LaBonge brought up of desalinization. And this is the issue. So this gentleman, if he wants to be on this board, he should be considering the fact that the problems of, well, taxing people to death shouldn't be on the board's agenda. It should be nuclear power, and what this implies, more water and more power. And so I'll just leave it at that. And general public comment.
Okay, thank you. Let's vote on this item. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's now move to item 54. Mr. Herman and Mr. Spindler on item 54. Please come forward. I do not see them. So let's just prepare to vote on it. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Forthwith, per Mr. LaBonge's request. Okay, Mr. LaBonge, why don't we move to item 11?
Thank you very much, members. Thank you very much. And in this matter right here, item number 11 is a very great opportunity for the city of Los Angeles and the Miracle Mile to add another great museum, one that we all will care for. I need to ask the planning department representatives to please come forth here and describe the project, and let council members, if you should have any questions, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman LaBonge. Lucy Ibarra with the Planning Department Major Projects Section. I'm just here to introduce the project. Before you today is consideration of the Academy Museum Motion Pictures. On May 14th, the City Planning Commission approved a conditional use variances, zoning administrator interpretations, site plan review, and reduced off-street parking, and recommended approval of the zone change and the establishment of a sign district to allow the development of the Academy Museum Motion Pictures for property along Museum Row in the Wilshire Community Plan area. The museum includes the rehabilitation of the historic 1939 May Company building at the intersection of Wilshire and Fairfax, and the construction of a new wing, also referred to as the Sphere, by the award-winning architect Renzo Piano. The original building's subterranean level will include a small theater for screenings, lectures, and panel discussions. The ground floor lobby will include free public access to exhibition and a K-12 education studio, as well as free access to an introductory gallery, together with a cafe and museum store. Levels 2 and 3 will contain permanent exhibition of the history of the movies, with the 4th floor hosting temporary rotating exhibitions. The building's 5th floor is the historic tea room, which will be restored to its original use as a dining and social engagement space, with the rooftop terrace connecting to the new wing, which will include a 10,000 square foot view deck, along with a 1,000-seat theater. Before you today is your consideration of the zone change and the establishment of the sign district. Approval of the findings for the master conditional use for alcohol sales that was heard by CPC on May 14th, and your consideration of the appeals filed by Mr. James O'Sullivan on the CPC approvals. I would like to make a correction to the June 23rd letter that was transmitted to the City Attorney's Office. Yesterday, the chair of the Planning and Land Use Committee heard the recommendations before you today on behalf of the Planning Department. The Chair of Plum further directed planning staff to work with the city to incorporate revisions as to form and legality and other technical edits recommended by the City Attorney.
Over there.
Pursuant to the Plum Chair's directive, the City Attorney has transmitted a revised draft of the sign ordinance, which is before you today. Furthermore, to the extent that the City Council decides to adopt the revised ordinance, we recommend that the City Council adopt the findings that were made by the CPC on May 14th, 2015. I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Ms. Ibarra, thank you very much. You think this is a good project for the city of Los Angeles?
I think it's a fantastic project for the region and the city as a whole.
Absolutely. And what's so special, members, is this museum row, if we will, and we call it there, with the work of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, with the work of the Peterson across the street, Crafted Folk Art, our museum right up the street, the Page Museum, with the La Brea Tar Pits. This museum that will highlight the motion picture industry in film. The Academy of Arts and Sciences is truly going to bring great joy to those, great knowledge to those who visited. So I just strongly support this. I do want to, at this time, consider the appeal, as Ms. Ibarra said, of James O'Sullivan on behalf of himself and Fix the City. Mr. O'Sullivan here? Okay. Just have to fill out a card. Mr. City Attorney, this is the representative, I believe, of Mr. O'Sullivan.
And
Go right ahead.
If I could jump in, this is a fair hearing matter requiring heightened attention to the speaker's comments by the council members.
Thank you. You can stay there. Stay there.
Oh, the card was for Mr. O'Sullivan, and she's representing. So please identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you. My name is Beverly Grossman Palmer. I'm a partner at the law firm of Strumwasser and Wucher. The haste to get this item before council has resulted in serious procedural missteps. This item is not properly before the council. Contrary to the Plum report, there was no public hearing before Plum. There was no quorum. Only Councilmember Huizar was present. The so-called recommendations are invalid because the chair alone cannot make recommendations. Under Council Rule 70, a member may submit a communication, and if a member submits a communication, the agenda for this council must specifically note that a 2/3 vote of the entire council is required for consideration of the item, and the agenda does not so note. So the violations that have been committed procedurally since yesterday: improper recommendation from a single committee member, no agenda notice of the majority vote requirement for consideration. The Plum report is inaccurate because it states that a public hearing was held before Plum when a public hearing was not, and it states that the Plum committee has made a recommendation. And in fact, Ms. Ibarra just stated that the Plum committee recommended, or the chair recommended, a revised draft of the sign ordinance, and there was no quorum for Plum, and that sign ordinance has probably been posted for about an hour. It's a lengthy document, and it's impossible for the community to compare it and see what changes have been made. On the merits of the appeal and this approval in general, the community does not object to the museum. The community is appreciative of a museum at this location and appreciative of the efforts to conserve and preserve the May Company building. But the community objects to the entertainment venue that is masquerading as a museum here. The sign district that is in the ordinance creates a serious inconsistency with the general plan and the Miracle Mile community design overlay district. Neither of those documents permit the type of signage that you are approving in the sign district, and by creating an inconsistency with the general plan, you subject the entire approval to legal risk. There's no evidence in the record that there is sufficient parking in light of the shared parking with LACMA. If anyone has ever tried to park when going to LACMA, it's already difficult, and the museum will now use 340 of the underground garage parking spaces when there are only 500 of those. The EIR does not address why the mitigation measures required in past EIRs and MNDs and imposed as binding permanent queue conditions are being removed for this project. There's no showing that the legal standard for removal of mitigation is satisfied. Where's the Cultural Heritage Commission here? They have not been permitted to opine on the sign district that will engulf the two most visible sides of a cultural monument in digital displays and place a giant glowing commercial symbol on the single most architecturally significant component of the historic building. There are many more objections that we have placed in the record. We believe there are numerous grounds to overturn this approval, and the council simply cannot act to approve this item today due to the procedural violations in the rush to get it on the agenda. You need to send the item back to Plum or agendize it properly according to your own rules. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Huizar would like to say a few words.
And also the city attorney, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify and ask the city attorney on the record procedurally if we're in good standing today to move forward. This item was heard yesterday in Plum. There was no quorum. However, as I often do, or anybody who is a committee chair, if there's no quorum, they make a recommendation from the chair. Any action that needs to be taken henceforth should happen at council. So anything I recommended has to be fully moved again here in council. It's my understanding. But Mr. City Attorney, I just want to clarify whether procedurally we are on good ground or good standing to move forward with this item.
I would suggest, out of an abundance of caution, that council take a vote right now to consider the matter. Right now,
I move
take
we
about
consider this matter.
Right.
Second. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's just open the roll.
Mr.
Well, no, stop. Yes, Mr.
Point of
Weezer.
clarification. But that's precisely what I'm asking. Is Mr. Labange moving the recommendation articulated from yesterday, or is it just
It's just to consider the matter to make sure that it is validly before this body.
Great, thank you. Okay.
So let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
Planning staff could briefly summarize again what it just stated a few minutes ago.
If you would.
So before you today is the approvals associated with the establishment of the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. Lucy Barra with the Planning Department. So the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, including the rehabilitation of the 1939 May Company building and the construction of the new wing, also known as the Sphere, which includes a 10,000 square foot view deck and a 1,000 seat theater.
Okay, so Mr. Labange, do you have a motion to make?
Yeah, I have a motion. I'm going to ask the city attorney to help clarify this. But before I make the motion, this has been going on for multiple years. And I'm honored to serve the city council. And yes, I'd like to see this approved. There's no question, but the work that everyone's done in the community. And yes, I want to thank our former mayor, Vera Gosa, to help push the subway out Wilshire Boulevard, which will provide a lot of opportunity for people there. Now I'd like to ask the city attorneys to the left of you to advise me earlier to call on me to make the motion, and he can recite the formal words. Thank you.
Before that happens, if we could allow the appellant 2 more minutes to speak now that...
Oh, thank you. Mr. O'Sullivan's representative.
And for clarification, an ordinance establishing the Academy Museum Sign District has been circulated and is now before council for consideration.
Go right ahead.
My client's objections still stand. The agenda for this item did not state that because it was rushed so much that the Plum report could not have been prepared in advance of the agenda does not contain the required statement that a majority vote of council is needed to bring this item for a vote, for a hearing. I have not seen any curing of that action, and you cannot cure it because the agenda needs to be posted 72 hours in advance. At a minimum, you need to re-agendize this for the next city council meeting with proper notice. That concludes my objections.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like clarification and statement from our city attorney.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. Labange, I understand that you would like to make a motion to adopt the chair of the Plum Committee's recommendation, but with 3 changes. The changes are as follows. Item 5 in the chair's recommendation should be replaced with the following. Adopt the findings associated with the master conditional use permit to allow for the on-site sale and consumption of alcohol beverages that were transmitted by the Department of City Planning on June 18, 2015, and attached to the council file as the findings of council. The second change is with respect to item number 6 in the chair's recommendation. Item number 6 should be replaced with the following. Resolve to deny the appeal and thereby sustain the City Planning Commission actions of May 14, 2015, and approve a zone change, a sign district, master conditional use permit, variances, zoning administrator's interpretations, site plan review, design overlay, and special permission for reduction of off-street parking. The third change is with respect to item number 8 of the chair's recommendation. That item should be replaced with the following: present and adopt the ordinance establishing a sign district as circulated by the city attorney this morning.
Thank you. I do hereby adopt that and confirm that. That is my motion, sir. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Labange, I do have some folk that would like to speak on this item. Why don't I give 5 minutes for those that support and 5 that oppose. So let's start out with Charles Lindblad, Beverly Grossman Palmer. Oh, you already spoke, right? And Daniel Wright and Wayne Spindler. Please come forward.
Thank you very much. My name is Charles Lindenblatt. I'm a member of the Mid-City West Community Council Planning and Land Use Committee, and at its April 14th board meeting, the Neighborhood Council passed on a 16 yeas, 8 nays, 3 abstentions, a motion that says that the Mid-City West Community Council opposes the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures project as proposed. We support Alternative 3, no main theater building alternative, which includes the refurbishment of the original May Company building in the 1946 edition. This does not include the event center, the Sphere, view deck, and pedestrian bridges. This alternative project is more appropriate and compatible with the Wilshire-Fairfax location. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Lindblad? Oh, I thought you said Daniel. Mr. Spindler? I don't see Mr. Spindler. I'll now go to those who are supportive. Starting with Grace Park. Leonard Engelman. Go right ahead.
Good morning. My name is Grace Park. I am a minister in a local Presbyterian church. I'm wholeheartedly in support of this project of the Academy, as I believe it is a wonderful and very needed addition to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll have a Bill Kramer, I believe it is, followed by Bill Delvac and Ron Miller. Go ahead, sir. Identify
Hello, my name
yourself.
is Leonard Engelman. I'm on the Board of Governors, Academy, a Vice President, and a Museum Committee volunteer member. The May Company building is a special place, and once complete, the project will be an amazing representation of the Los Angeles hometown industry. That's why it's such a broad array of support for this project. With us here today to support are representatives from our closest residential neighbors at Park La Brea and 637 Fairfax condos. We are pleased to have the support of LACMA, the Peterson, the Page, A.F. Gilmore, and the original Farmers Market, the Los Angeles Hollywood and Miracle Mile Chambers, the building trades, the L.A. Tourism Board, Los Angeles High School, Ravitich Company, and many more. The diverse array of support speaks volumes to the positive impact the Academy Museum will bring not only to Museum Row and the Miracle Mile, but to the entire region. Not able to be here are the millions of viewers of the Oscar Awards who I'm sure would be supporters. Thank you for your time.
Please come forward and identify yourself.
My name is Bill Kramer. I'm Managing Director of the Academy Museum Project. I just want to thank the council members today, especially Councilmember Labange, for your incredible support of the project over time. We've spent the last year and a half meeting with a wide variety of community members, our neighbors, stakeholders, and we've made a lot of changes to the project in response to their demands, including greatly reducing our signage plan and adding 800 parking spaces to the project that we are leasing within a one-block radius of the building. In the interest of time, though, and given the appeal, I'm going to turn the rest of my time over to Bill Delvac, our attorney, who will speak to the appeal points. Thank you.
Well, Bill has his own time, but let's restart the clock. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilmember Labange, honorable council members, Bill Delvac on behalf of the Academy. This project has been a number of years in the making. It has had an extensive hearing officer hearing, a lengthy City Planning Commission meeting, and testimony offered to the chair at Plum yesterday. Every issue you've heard about today and every issue that was heard yesterday and at CPC has been raised by the appellants at the very beginning of the process. These have been addressed in the EIR and in the findings. I want to speak for a moment first about the Brown Act and then come back to the other issues. Certainly the purpose of the Brown Act is to make sure that the public and interested members of the interested parties have an opportunity to appear before a body. The appellant is here. The appellant had the agenda. In fact, on Friday afternoon, I told Ms. Palmer that it was likely to be in council on the 24th. This council has the right to have this matter heard directly by the council. That's the vote you just took. So there's no particular concern about process. The issues that the appellants have wanted you to consider, they've asked you to consider over and over again, and each time the city has done its analysis and concluded that the community design overlay does not prohibit this project. The queue conditions are not binding on this site. In fact, the staff report for the adoption of the CDO expressly exempted this site. The general plan element, the transportation element, there's no concern there. Yes, this is a scenic highway, but there are only interim guidelines that say what the standard approach should be. The sign district is a project-specific analysis. No evidence in the record regarding parking, which was what was said. There's pages in the EIR talking about the parking on site, the shared parking, the parking in the area. The Academy has leased hundreds of spaces. All of the evidence shows that there won't be a parking impact. If I may just have one more moment. With regard to the Cultural Heritage Commission, we have been in front of the Cultural Heritage Commission 3 different times. The sign ordinance has been presented, and the sign program has been presented to the Cultural Heritage Commission, including the Rule 38 notice to the departments. We believe that the project is a great project. The time has come. We urge your support of the project, deny the appeal.
Thank you. And Mr. Miller.
Good morning, Council. I'm Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades. We represent thousands of members in LA and Orange County, hard-working folks. There's no better place for this museum than right along with the rest of the museums. These are educational institutions. They really are. And you can tell by the quality of public speakers you get up here that there's some that need to be in these museums to learn history and to learn the future. You know, the movie industry is near and dear to LA's heart. You guys have worked very hard to keep it here. You and the mayor and everybody. And they need a place to show their wares, to show young minds what the movie industry is about. So let's approve this project and get the building so we can put some folks to work and people can learn in the museums. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Labange to close.
I'm very excited. I've worked a lot on this project, and if we get it approved, it's only sooner that it could be a door opening for all of us to learn about the great history of motion picture and inspire young people. I want to thank the Academy of Arts and Sciences for all their commitment to stay here and to make something special and transform the beautiful May Company building that John Ferraro saved, and have Lorenzo Piano, one of the greatest architects in the world, come to visit it as a place for you and me and everyone in the neighborhood. Thank you so much. I ask for an aye vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Clerk, let's open the roll.
Very good, sir. And if I may, this will be to adopt the recommendations of the committee report as amended. By motion, Labange Krikorian.
Okay, now, Mr. Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you. That's approved. Let's now forthwith. Okay,
Forthwith
now
what?
let's move to item 55. Item 55 was held special by cards. Mr. Herman. I don't see Mr. Herman here. Let's vote on that item 55. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Let's Okay, Mr. Walsh, come forward. We're going to do item 45. Please clear the aisle. Mr. Labange, please clear the aisle.
Mr. President, we've had requests to send items 10 and 13 forthwith, sir.
So without objection, that'll be the order. I'm looking for Mr. John Walsh. Mr. Walsh, please come forward if you want to speak.
John
Item
Walsh,
45.
Blogging HollywoodHighlands.org. This is item 45. And item 45 concerns the fire department. We have, it's not the worst fire department in America, that's New York City, but it's rife with politics. It's totally racist. But don't worry, this all-white jury here support everyone, support the racist. In fact, it's not only just racist. You can't get a job at the fire department unless you're related to one of the white people in the fire department. And if your skin happens to be black...
No, stay on the
He's not referring
subject.
to the
Stay
item.
on the subject, Mr. Walsh. Just stay on the subject.
Fire department. Is that not right? Notice the people who are upset about
Rescue Task Force. Go on.
blacks up here.
No, you're not on the subject. Now stay on the subject.
What is the subject?
That's you. That's
Fire
your job.
department, urban search and rescue. It's the worst one in America because it's not integrated because of Uncle Tom.
No, okay, thank you. Your time. Sergeants, help him find his chair. And your time is done. Your time is done. You are continuing to disrupt the meeting. No, you know what? We need to... Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Mr. Fuentes, let's do something very positive right now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's see if we can. Before you, for your consideration, colleagues, is an item that attempts to regulate unapproved dwelling units in multifamily housing. Many of you are familiar that we have a system-wide code enforcement program in the city of Los Angeles that goes and monitors apartment buildings throughout the city of Los Angeles. And we get to each and every of those apartments in about 4 to 5 years. And what we find when we get to these apartment buildings is that some of them are not in compliance. The range of issues before those apartments can be small or large. And so what ends up happening, colleagues, is that the city of Los Angeles has no choice but to issue orders to get these buildings to comply, and rightfully so. The property owner, unfortunately, ends up having one of two choices: a small window of time to be able to connect the dots and formalize the unit so that it gets into compliance, or it has to vacate the unit. What ends up happening, colleagues, more often than not, in fact, in between 2000 and 2015, we lost about 80% of the units that we found to be out of compliance. And the challenge before all of us is that we have a finite number of time to stabilize these units, a finite number of time to get them into compliance. But the process by which that needs to take place is far longer than the orders that we usually issue. So as a result, we end up displacing families by order of the City of Los Angeles. And what this ordinance, as proposed, would intend to do is create guidelines by which we can then add some flexibility to the existing law so that we preserve these units. To give you an example, from 2010 to 2015, we discovered over 2,500 units. Of those, only 8.5% of them, 201, were able to be remediated and fixed so that we wouldn't lose them. 74.5%, or about 1,700 units, were lost as a result. So what this endeavors to do is create a list by which Building and Safety, the Planning Department, and the Housing Department can get out there and see if we can preserve these units. I'd like to have staff come up and help us understand what the next steps are as we move forward. But I'd urge all of you to support this. It is a path for us to be able to legalize units. It's also a testament to the cooperation between property owners and tenants. They have come together and they understand, like we all do, that there is a housing crisis and an absolute need here. And what this aims to do is stabilize some of those units that we could hopefully put into compliance so that we can begin the harder work of moving towards finding more affordable housing stock. So my question for staff here is, what happens next? You've got this very good report that helps us understand the situation. What is before us?
Matt Klesny from the City Planning Department. The Housing Committee instructed the Planning Department with the Housing Department and Building and Safety to draft an ordinance with the City Attorney's Office based on some policy recommendations that the Housing Committee recommended to us. The general idea is to use affordable housing as a way to make it small adjustments in cases where that seem to be appropriate. The next steps would be to draft the ordinance with cooperation of the apartment owners and the tenants organizations, and to get out in the neighborhoods and talk to the neighborhood groups and begin drafting an ordinance that would go through our normal ordinance process, the City Planning Commission, back to the committees and to City Council.
And so the last thing that I'll say that is very important, in exchange for the flexibility that we would grant folks, would we then be able to mandate some of those units to become affordable and add a covenant so that we increase the affordable housing stock?
That was the recommendation. That's the direction we are going. We do that today with new construction. We allow a little bit extra density, some parking relief. The idea would be to apply that same concept to these retroactive units.
Fantastic. Well, colleagues, I would urge an aye vote. We want to stabilize these units. We want to bring them into compliance, and we also want to increase our housing stock. It's a small number, but this is only what we know of. This is as a result of our efforts to get out there and understand what the universe of illegal units are. The hope is that this ordinance will provide enough of an incentive for people to come forward and volunteer to bring their units into compliance, and thereby helping us stabilize not just these units, but increase the affordable housing stock. I want to thank Chairman Cedillo for his leadership and my colleague, Mr. Price, in committee for helping move this forward so that we can get on to the more difficult housing issues at stake. Urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. Mr. Englander?
Yes, hi. When I first heard of this and read a little bit of it, and I got some calls from some of my constituents of concern as well, I couldn't be more proud of what Councilmember Fuentes has put together on this, quite frankly, and I've told my residents in my district that as well, and that I disagreed with some of their positions on it because I don't think it was fully flushed out, and I walked them through the thinking of it and completely turned around their opinion as well. So I think it behooves us to get this information out there. We've got people living in deplorable conditions in illegally and converted units. This will provide that safety mechanism, legalize them, provide the opportunity for them to live safely. And, you know, we do have a huge housing shortage here, and the ability to have folks step up and do the right thing and have those units then not only legalized but come into conformance and be safe and be inspected by Building and Safety just makes a lot of sense. And so I want to thank my colleague. It's great that you have recognized this. You've spent quite a deal of time focused on this. And this is probably, from a housing perspective and the things we're dealing with citywide on these issues, one of the most significant pieces of legislation, quite frankly, to come through these chambers in a long time in terms of dealing with these issues. So I really, truly appreciate it. I'm honored to serve with you. Thank you.
Very well. There are no cards on this item. Mr. Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, item 1.
That's item 1, called special for cards.
First speaker on item 1, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or at J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is a recording of a lien company called Shotcrete for $8,582. This is, they create cement walls. We're 100% in favor of the liens, and that's item 1. And it is always a pleasure to speak in front of Nuri Martinez, who doesn't sell out the blood of her own people.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Next speaker, Mr. Herman. Is Mr. Herman here? Mr. Herman is not here. That concludes our speakers for item 1. Mr. Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 46.
Item 46, called special for cards.
Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman is not here. Next speaker, Mr. Walsh. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Walsh, you're out of time. Thank you, sir. Next speaker for item 46, Wayne Spindler. Mr. Spindler is not here. That concludes cards for item 46. Mr. Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, I'm sorry, Mr. Englander, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Can I please request item 53 forthwith per the City Attorney?
Yes, item 53.
Yes, ma'am.
Forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Englander. Next item, item 47.
Item 47, called special for cards.
First speaker, Mr. Wayne Spindler. Wayne Spindler is not here. Mr. Spindler, you're speaking on item 47, sir.
Wow. Public Safety Committee, LAPD.
Mr. Herman, I did not call your name. This is item 47. You did not fill a card. It's Mr. Wayne Spindler.
Here we go. The LAPD South Bureau Heavy Duty Service Area. Well, you have to have a heavy duty service area. They got to bring in all kinds of their heavy equipment from LAPD. Like, for example, tanks. You got to have tanks, rocket launchers. You got to have self-propelled rocket launchers, platforms for drones. See, we got to have a military force in each of these major cities. As soon as the stock market crashes again, there's going to be a lot of people not very happy. So this is a good thing for the department. Now, it's a bad thing for the people. But you don't represent the people. So you represent the LAPD and Charlie Beck, who's nothing but a train wreck. And when you look at these garages, for example, tow companies, they tow homeless people's car away even when they're sleeping in the car because Charlie Beck's a train wreck. and it's derailing, killing people on.
He is not talking about this item right now.
The heavy tow duty service area, around the vicinity of the heavy tow service area, LAPD killing innocent people unarmed. So you'd vote no. If you were representing me, you'd vote no. But you don't. You don't. You represent the campaign donors who want this piece of crap. So go ahead. You can vote yes, militarize all of these dirtbag government assholes that you want, because when their paychecks don't clear, they're not going to leave the garage, they're going to leave the state, and they're going to leave you out in the street.
That concludes the speakers for item 47. Mr. Labange.
To correct something, the South Bureau, as well as all police bureaus, do have heavy tow trucks. This is not a police vehicle. This is a safety vehicle for towing trucks or specialized vehicles for that. It's not anything to do with police activity, but for cars.
Thank you, Mr. Labange, for the clarification. That concludes our speakers for item 47. Mr. Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 50.
Item 50 called special for cards.
Wayne Spindler, item 50.
This deals with CD9, current prices district. I don't want to pick on him. So let's see, is there a reason to pick on him? He's renaming the intersection the Gerald Wilson Square. Here's a question. Who the hell's Gerald Wilson? Well, we're going to have to find out, because Gerald Wilson, I don't think he invented the light bulb. Gerald Wilson didn't invent the modern-day jet engine. Gerald Wilson wasn't the first person to sit at a segregated lunch area and get his head bashed in over the Jim Crow era. So hopefully Gerald Wilson is worthy of this honor, but if he is, support it. CD9, current price, considerable upgrade from the Jan Perry monster. Thank you.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman, item 50.
Wow, Mr. Price, you're actually doing some good for the Watts area, South Central. What's up? The hood is in the house, and we're going to dedicate a permanent ceremonial sign on behalf and in effect for Gerald Wilson Square. No one knows who the hell he is. What significant impact did he have in the community, other than he paid for your campaign, possibly? Price? And again, who's to say that the ceremony event, would you please, Tom, be quiet so I can finish? God damn, it's only 2 fucking minutes. Relax. X-Lax, you're leaving at the end of the month.
He should direct his comments to the council as a whole.
Madam Speaker, direct my conversation with you and you only, and ask the two little peons to be quiet for just 2 minutes, please.
Mr. Herman, you need to stay on the subject. You need to stay on the subject, sir.
I'm talking about the signs, because we don't know who Mr. Wilson is. Mr. Wilson, you're floating away. Let me put a sign on the beach so you don't go too far. And we know that Mr. Wilson will be back by tide on 42nd place. But from 41st and 43, there's 42nd. So Mr. Wilson, we're going to name this after you. Gerald, G-E-R-L-D. For the record, Mr. City Attorney, did I spell his name correct? Because I have a tendency to make fucking mistakes. Sorry for the language. But I'm in Nuri mode right now. So for Mr. Wilson, we're going to put up a square on your behalf at 42nd place. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
That concludes cards for for this item, Mr. Price.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those who don't know, Gerald Wilson was a world-renowned musician who brought joy and excitement to listeners for over 75 years. In the 40s, Gerald Wilson made his way out to L.A. and began working the club circuit along Central Avenue. He became a real hallmark there. He played with such musicians as Bobby Bryant, Harold Land, Jack Wilkins, many others, Duke Ellington, Dizzy Gillespie, Nancy Wilson, Sarah Vaughan. Was a real pioneer of music and an ambassador all around the world. And certainly, I think it's timely and significant that we acknowledge his presence on Central Avenue. In fact, this year we'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, celebrating the history, the legacy of jazz. In fact, Gerald Wilson played that festival many years, including last year, right up to his untimely death. And so we look forward to an opportunity to celebrate not only Gerald Wilson, but others who have really made a mark, who have provided great joy, not just to Los Angeles, not just to California, but throughout the world. And we're honored to identify 42nd Place and Central Avenue, Gerald Wilson Square. I urge your support, members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. Cedillo?
Councilmember Price, congratulations and thank you for doing this. Gerald Wilson was a giant, great musician. Played, as you said, Central Avenue, played Playboy Jazz Festival, seemed to be a regular every year. Part of a community of people like Leroy Vinegar and Teddy Edwards, great people who were also involved in the Black Musicians Union. Though named Black Musicians Union, it was a multi-ethnic union. Joined that union, participated in that union when they couldn't participate in the Musicians Union. Great leader, great civic leader, someone who was really involved. He is due this, and his music should continue to excite and elevate the social, civic, and cultural life of this great city. And it will do that with this designation. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. That concludes our speakers on this item. Mr. Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you. Item passes. Next item, item 51.
Item 51, called special for cards.
First speaker, Wayne Spindler on item 51.
The unwanted fire alarm plan. Charging fees for unwanted alarms. Defining what is an unwanted alarm. I mean, the last thing you want in a city going bankrupt is a fire alarm. You don't want to hear that when there's no fire. How about if you want unwanted fire alarms out, take them out fee-free. Because everybody likes free. So all you have to say is, we'll take your unwanted fire alarms out for free. And then they'll go ahead and they'll do it. But if you start charging fees, you're going to keep hearing this familiar sound, false alarm.
Mr. Spindler, can you hold his time? Mr. Herman seems to be having trouble sitting in his seat. Are you done? You keep interrupting this council meeting, sir. I'm going to ask you to leave. Mr. Spindler, continue.
He's only trying to look for the fire alarm.
Next speaker, Andrea. Oh, and you wrote Andrea, but Ms. Ramirez. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I really don't understand what the unwanted fire alarm plan is, what its purpose, and what it's supposed to accomplish. I don't get it. Why should anybody be charged for an unwanted alarm? Should we all have to get an alarm? And most of the times, most people take out the batteries anyway, so what's the point, you know? I think with the brilliant minds that we have in America and in the fire department, why don't we build a fire alarm that will be conducive, that won't burn or turn on when you're cooking your tortillas and, you know, smoke alarms all over the place. I love my tortillas, and boy, those things go on every single time when I head home. So could you please work on a more high-tech, unwanted alarm that will serve a purpose for the residents? Please. God bless America and the United States military, of course.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Next speaker, Mr. Herman, item 51.
One minute to make you all understand that the unwanted fire alarm plan is very uneducational and not scientific. If there's a fire, you yell, fire! If someone needs help, emergency, police, help! And then we have the 911. So if anyone's ever in a crisis, any good Samaritan would probably save your life, but not this consul. Because if a child who has autism makes a wrong call, like Englander, he would probably go over there and says, arrest this kid, he's making prank calls, he's a terrorist. No, the child does not understand. He cannot communicate effectively because of his big ears. So take the time and really explain to the public what you're doing when you're giving them these stupid costs and charges on fire and alarms. Thank you.
That concludes our speaker cards for this item. Mr. Englander?
Great. Thank you, colleagues. I asked for your aye vote on this. We had 15,000 unwanted calls last year to the fire department. And what's happened is we have chronic users as well. In fact, we've done an analysis on this, and we had locations that called hundreds of times at the same location. Imagine that. We roll out the fire department. Perhaps we roll them out code 3, lights and sirens, to the same location every other day with no repercussions at all. Now, what that also does is it takes those resources out of service to respond to a real emergency. The police department acknowledged this years ago and implemented a similar program. There won't be a citation or a fine. In fact, there's no citation. There won't be a fine on the first one. They just sign up for the alarm school, just like you do with the Los Angeles Police Department. This will save lives. This will save the opportunity and free up the resources to respond to real emergencies. When we take resources out of service because they're responding to an unwanted alarm call, often triggered by construction work and other things being done, you're putting lives in jeopardy because they can't respond to that person who truly needs basic life or advanced life support. So I urge your aye vote, and I want to thank the fire department for implementing this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. That concludes speakers on item 51. Mr. Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 52.
Item 52, called special for cards.
First speaker, Wayne Spindler on item 52. And you have 1 minute, by the way.
Yes. I only have 1 minute, but I had 2 minutes, so since I got cheated out of a minute, I have to go into Nuri mode. Vandalism and graffiti. The two names of the LA city, vandalism and graffiti. Don't take down the tagging, because tagging is art. Except in CD5, that's different. You got to take it down, because we don't want tagging in CD5 and Encino, because when I occasionally entertain my friends, I don't want them going down the 101 and exiting White Oak and going and seeing the graffiti on the southbound lane. Thank you for taking it down, Mr. Koretz. You took it down again. But in the rest of the city, let them tag. Tag, tag, tag. Because in the rest of the city, it's art.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman, item 52.
Illegal barriers. Well, communication regarding the vandalism and graffiti trust fund. Wasn't it this council that said we need more art in the city of Los Angeles? And now you're calling graffiti art vandalism. That really sucks. But yet the little made a big stink out of it a month ago because somebody was tagging his graffiti in his neighborhoods. But no one wants to talk about Krikorian because the little goat man there knows nothing about real art. I love art. I love art. I love art so well that I can't stop loving it. And to put this motion before the fiscal year of 2013-2014 for October 2nd relative to the status of vandalism graffiti trust fund, I say waive it. Waive it away. Because every American who lives in Los Angeles has a right to put up graffiti without the horrible action of this council to say it's vandalism. It's not vandalism. It's an expression of someone's ability, not like yours, Dion, to pray right now, but people who really care about art. And how long did we wait for the process of the new conditions for what? Permit for art and graffiti? Weezer praised it. The dumbass got up and left because he didn't want to talk about vandalism and graffiti art in Boyle Heights. What a little rag doll. I hope all your bald head falls off so I can get my can of Rogaine and put art on your head.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Next speaker, Andrea. Is this you, Ms. Ramirez?
I believe in the Socratic method. I come from the old school of hard knocks, black and white, all or nothing. I personally dislike, loathe, and have disdain for vandalism and graffiti. My parents, Mexican Americans, taught me you don't violate, you don't ruin, you don't ravage, and you don't nosy and don't meddle in other things that don't belong to you. You don't touch other people's things, and you certainly don't destroy city or county or state property. God damn you, this is just unacceptable. How do you grow up trashing somebody's buildings? America is beautiful. Let's not cheapen this America. What you come here with graffiti is no art. It's just garbage. Plain and simple, rap garbage. And again, vandalism. I deal with that every night when I sleep on the streets. Very clean, I might add. I wake up, my shopping cart for the 5th shopping cart in a month. It's been now the bars. They've been stealing these damn gangbangers and Africans and African Americans. I deal with vandalism every night and every day. Again, who helps us? Well, it ain't the taggers, and it ain't the gangbangers and the wetbacks. Again, ladies and gentlemen, put a stop. Put these bastards, castrate them, chemically castrate them, and put them in jail. That's where they belong. They can tag the jail cells all night and all day. Get rid of them. I, again, love America. I want to see these beautiful buildings from the 20s and 30s kept in beautiful shape because people worked hard with their little fingers and making pennies a week just to erect these gorgeous buildings, and look what they've become now. They're cockroach infested, they're drilled upon, and they're damaged and defaced. Come on. Are we Mexicans that dirty, that low? I'm ashamed of these Mexicanos and Latinos. Bunch of pulgas, cucarachas. No tienen madre. And you too, the wetback behind me. Anyway, having said that, please, again, I ask you, arrest them, deport them, and get rid of them. That's not art. It's trash. God bless America and the United States.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Juan Alcala, you're speaking on item 52. Sir, no, you can't do. You're going to get hurt, Mr. Alcala. Go ahead, sir.
I ride the whole city on my bike every day, and you don't tell me you're going to get hurt.
Just trying to look out for you.
You
Go
know
ahead,
what's
sir.
hurting me is the shininess of your jewelry. It's hurting my eyes.
He is not talking about this item.
The item is the cucarachas and the people that live tagging our city. You remember the life of Brian, Mr. City Attorney? The guy was being chased by the Romans for tagging the city way back in Roman times. So tagging has been around for longer than you can remember, City Attorney. Labange, quit interrupting my speech with your drunken stupor. See these two interrupting my speech? Get out of here. Anyway, in my speech, I'm telling you, we are full of whatever we are because we are foolish humans keeping each other homeless. And the homeless have no other entertainment than to tag your city. Your city? Go to hell. It's not your city. It's everybody's city, but you make it unaffordable. So, all we can afford is paint, spray paint, so we can decorate your fucking stupid city. We don't need your fucking stupid city. We need a city where everybody can live and everybody can get along. Make rent affordable, you assholes. That's the first item.
He is not talking about this item.
You, City Attorney, go to...
Thank you, Mr. Alcala. We're now moving on to public comment. I'm sorry, we need to vote on item 52. Open the row, close the row, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you. Item passes. Now we're going to move on to public comment. First speaker, Ankur Patel. Sir,
Don't I get 2 minutes?
No, you get 1 minute for public comment. Your time is running out.
So the rules changed again. So I used to think that these 2 minutes of public comment were valuable, precious to me. I appreciate the attention of the people here and the few city council members that do pay attention to people who speak here. And I was trying to convey this yesterday, but I didn't know that the rules had changed. And so, again, I had thought that my time was cut because you had a 2-hour presentation for Council Member Labange, maybe deserved, but they got to sing songs of Elvis and I only get a minute here. So I'm still trying to adjust to the fact that you continue to marginalize on so many levels the economic solutions that you put forward in terms of $15 an hour or sick leave, which some of you were here, are wholly inadequate, right? $15 an hour in 2020. At the same time, the Federal Reserve will be printing billions of dollars, so that hundreds of billions maybe. Anyway.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Thank you very much. Next speaker, Sid Mansourian. Sir, you are done. Your time is up. Please sit down. Next speaker, Sid Mansourian. Sid Mansourian, you are next.
Council members, good morning again. Look, all of you have been seeing every day I come in here, and I just cannot state my subject matter to follow all the shenanigans. But I hold this council must hold himself responsible in one sense, and I'm not trying to degrade any one of you. Collectively, you must find a solution where people who come here for business, to do the right thing for the Angelenos, collectively with you all, we must be heard in a forum where we are not followed. I respect them, whatever they do, but it's not the place. How can I follow with a serious subject, or anyone else besides me, to come here and make a plea with you all? It is upon you to find a solution, because one of these days, something terribly going to go wrong in this forum here, not because of me, because of frustrated public.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Jim McQuiston. He's already left. Okay, thank you. Next speaker, Jose Martinez. Jose Martinez, are you here? Next speaker, Mr. Herman.
Well, you heard Sid. Him and I were both at the Board of Public Works addressing the same issue, but under 2 minutes. For the disguise of the city again to interrupt and interfere with this gentleman who's for the longest time has had his sidewalks interrupted by your so-called shady business, racketeering business. That's what you did to Sid, Weezar. That's what he said in Public Works this morning, bonehead. So give the man the opportunity to be heard for 2 fucking minutes. Is it that difficult? And the same gentleman in the blue shirt. I care less about my fucking minute because I'm going to use it up the right way with profanity to the insane fools that sit here and don't take public criticism too hard and with love. Assholes. That's right. It's all about love. Love like Weezar does it. Love and hump. Francine Godoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Next speaker, John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. When I receive politeness from the chair, I return politeness from the chair. The chair now is different from what it was before. Okay, Gerald Wilson, I didn't know him personally, but he was a good friend of a friend of mine. I'm looking forward to the Central Jazz Festival where his son, Gerald Wilson's son, will be leading the Gerald Wilson Orchestra. And I say anybody here who's never heard of Gerald Wilson, please come down into what used to be the black neighborhood, which is now Central American, at Central Avenue, and see what's happening. As far as Tom LaBonge, he's not here. He must be, again, we're 100% about you fighting your alcoholism when you go to work for the DWP. The First Amendment is really nasty to some people, but my great-great-great-grandfather fought for it in the Civil War, in the Revolutionary War.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Next speaker, Brian Barajas. Oh, Mr. Koretz, go ahead.
Just for the record, since the last speaker said that Tom LaBonge wasn't on the floor, he's been right here the whole time. So just for the record.
Thank you for clearing that up. Mr. Barajas, you're next. Can we ask Mr. Walsh, can you please take a seat, sir? Thank you. Mr. Barajas?
All right. I turned in a leaflet for everybody. There's man-made global warming in hell, but what nations will agree to go there? My issue here is the fact that the Pope has adopted a policy of green, I should say insanity. I think in particular, the person that gave this document, the encyclical, to the Pope is a man named Juan Joaquim John Schullerhuber. His title is Honorary Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, given to him in 2004 by the British bitch called Queen Elizabeth. So as an American, watch out for the greenies.
Next speaker, Wayne Spindler.
Yes, my My apologies to Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth. Members of the Illuminati, such as myself, were a little uncomfortable with those comments, but we appreciate it. Anyway, yes, I thought Tom LaBonge died, but he's here. He's alive. It's amazing. I went up to his council district office on the 4th floor. All of the furniture's being removed. All the pictures are gone. Yeah, I thought he passed away. So I just couldn't understand what happened. But on the good side, I went to your office, Nuri, and you're moving to a new office. You're getting a bigger office. Nuri, you're going to become the next council president. Congratulations. I hear the rumors. Good job. Better chair than Mr. Wessy.
Next speaker, Antonio Ramirez.
To those of you who are homeless, you are homeless, a segment of the population who are victims of crime. You are homeless by design, as I am, because you've pissed somebody off in high places. So therefore, either it was the FBI, the Anti-Defamation League, the Masonic Lodges, the Freemasons, the ACLU, the LAPD, and all law enforcement, Sheriff's Department, the NAACP, the Black Panthers, MECHA, MALDEF, NALEO, LULAC, and all legal aid, and all taxi drivers, judges, and attorneys. Department of Justice as well. So they hire foot patrol soldiers, blacks and Latinos and white trash. So in the middle of the night, they get up between 12 midnight and 4:30 in the morning, and they go and look for property to damage and steal your IDs. So we have to tie everything all around us. That's why many of us don't get enough sleep. You got to tie your everything in your bra and everything else. So again, to you, you're not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. I love my jalapeno. That's how hard I believe in what I'm doing. God bless America and the United States military. Be safe.
Next speaker, Mr. Juan Acala.
I'd be afraid to love that woman because she don't love jalapenos, and I like jalapenos. I don't like to eat them. I like to give them to somebody else. Anyway, my main speech has to deal with the fact that we are so damn rich already, and the federal is printing so much money, like the other guy said, that there should be enough money for everybody to have a little place to live. Come on, you a-holes. You are in government. You are in power. Obama, what have you done about the homeless? And you're on your way out anyway. All these guys here in the horseshoe, what have you done about the homeless? Oh, you want to move their property from one place to another and scare them like cockroaches.
Thank you, Mr. Alcala. The next speaker is Eric Previn.
Yes, it's Eric Previn, a resident from CD2, and 1 minute is not acceptable in public comment. And, you know, item 151657 from a week or so ago was a settlement on the Shoemaker versus City of Los Angeles case. June 1, there was a claims board meeting. June, you know, that's been moving forward. There's a big problem because you didn't open it to the public. And, you know, there's a casualness with which corrupt acts seem to be done and an apparent unconcern that there might be harsh consequences. You'd think that a corrupt public official would go to extraordinary lengths to make his crimes difficult to detect and even more difficult to prove, but at least in several of the cases we know of recently, they rarely seem to. Since most officials are rational people, this suggests that a pervasive culture of corruption and their individual experiences with it have told them that they have little to fear. That logic has to change. Any official contemplating selling his office has to be made to know that he will end up not just in prison, but financially ruined if he or she does so. And I will say, Bill Delvac, Barbara Delvac gave some money to Mr. Krikorian. You just need to agendize items when I ask you to, and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Previn. That concludes public comment. Mr. Clerk, what's before us?
Madam President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
Members, any announcements? Mr. Labange?
The City Council, all my colleagues, for the very nice tribute you gave my family and myself yesterday. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well deserved, Mr. Labange. Anyone else? Any announcements? Okay, any adjournments? Mr. Labange, everyone please rise for council adjournments, including the audience, please.
Can we have him shut up, please?
Mr. Labange, go
Madam
ahead.
President, you know, run into people in the neighborhood who you know and love, and they operate a donut shop, and they're immigrants, and they're struggling, and all of a sudden they get enough money to buy a gas station. Then all of a sudden somebody knocks on their door and says they want to build a building there and pay them rent, and they're sitting in such a very special spot. That was Tom Lay. Tom Lay was a great man who immigrated to this country and ran that donut shop, and then wanted to be a mechanic and run a gas station. But then gold mine hit him with this new Operation Enterprise. Unfortunately, after just a normal hike in Griffith Park, he didn't feel well, and he lied down, and he went straight to heaven. He's survived by his wife, Lynn, and their 4 children. But he truly was an infectious person. I went to his services over at Rose Hill. Many people from the community were there, all agreeing how special Tom Lay was. I ask we adjourn in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Anyone else? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.